As a growing number of premiers push for Ottawa to pause next month's carbon tax hike, Yukon MLAs voted down a motion to condemn the federal carbon tax increase, putting the territory at odds politically with many of its provincial neighbours. For more on Yukon's position and message about the carbon tax, I'm joined by Premier Ranj Pillai, live in Vancouver this morning. Premier, thank you for getting up early for me and for coming in.
Rosemary, good morning.
I'm delighted to see you. I mentioned there that the Yukon Party, the opposition Yukon Party, put forward this motion to condemn the carbon tax increase that's going to happen next month. I'm wondering how you feel about what seems to be increasing pressure on a growing number of premiers to speak out about that.
Yeah, look, I think it's very politically what would I say, strategic right now, charged right now. I mean, I think, look, we're seeing premiers across Canada make this decision. And, I think if we reflect on the panel today and earlier that you had in the words from the Basilica yesterday, you've got to make decisions that are not just based on 10-day cycles. You got to make them based on 10-year cycles. And Yukoners are very concerned about climate change. We had, extreme flooding last year and a fire season, and we're preparing right now. We have to build a contingency budget to get ready for what's going to happen from the effects of climate change. And the next generation of Yukoners want to see action. And this is the plan that's in front of us. So, we're implementing. And, we're also, Rosemary, we're in a unique position. The average family of four in the Yukon is spending about $800 as of the 2024 year. But at the same time, they're getting back about $1,500. And we're in a unique position because there's a tremendous amount of international traffic that comes through the Yukon on the Alaska Highway going to Alaska. So actually, we have an opportunity to have more revenue coming in that we have from international sources than we do from Yukoners. So we're dispersing all of that. But it also focuses on the uniqueness of this model and probably the fact that we have to get back to the table with the federal government, all provinces and territories, to, there was a commitment for a 5-year review, and I think it's time for us to all get back to the table with the federal government and talk about what's unique in our regions.
Okay, so what would that look like then, that conversation for you? I understand what you're saying, that the rebate, it makes a big difference right now, but obviously there are real challenges in the North too when it comes to not only fighting climate change, but affordability issues. So what would that conversation look like?
Well, I think, look, on the short term, I think we saw that there was this adjustment made with Atlantic Canada, and it also affected the Yukon. So we've got a 3-year hiatus right now, and we've got an ability to come in and put different types of infrastructure in place, such as heat pumps. They don't work for 12 months of the year in the Yukon. You would probably get 9-10 months out of them. So my comments to the federal government was, I need the best deal in the country, especially when it comes to the same cost as almost replacing your roof. So I think short term, it's making sure that there's adjustments in the programs that they deploy are going to work for us. In the long term, we got to think about nation building, and nation building means complete electrification across the country. It's grid connection, probably for all 3 territories. I won't speak for my counterparts, but I've heard that from the other regions. And certainly for us, we've got a proposal in right now to Canada saying, look, we want to connect to the North American grid. It's going to drive the economy, but it's also the best thing for us to do if we want to reduce our emissions.
Have you had any pressure from your colleagues, your peers, your premier friends about your position on this? Have you also received a letter from the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, who wrote to Premier Eby, calling him out? Is there any pressure mounting on you around any of this?
No, I've never had a discussion with Mr. Poilievre, and I did not receive a letter. So he didn't reach out. But I would say, no, my colleagues, look, I mean, you saw it yesterday. I have an incredible amount of respect for all my colleagues. I spent time with everybody yesterday. I've got agreements with a number of Conservative premiers across the country, as well as NDP premiers. I work across the aisle. I think that, we need to do more of that. So I respect where they're coming from, each and every one of them. And the same thing right across, my colleague in Newfoundland. But for the Yukon, the majority of Yukoners want to see action on climate change. And I can't look at the next generation of Yukoners and say, look, I got pressure, I had to make this decision, and we're going to wait for another model to come along. No, this is the model that's in front of us. Look, if in the future, another federal government, 5-10 years from now, whenever, comes and says, look, we have a better machine for everybody to use. Sure, we'll all take a look at it. But right now, this is what's in front of us. Do I think it's perfect? No, I don't. Was there a commitment by the federal government to bring everybody back to the table? There was. We need to do that. But in the interim, look, we have a major challenge in front of us. And if anybody thought trying to take on the challenges of climate change on this planet were going to be easy, and when things got a bit tough, we were going to have to fold. No, we're not. We have to make the long-term plan, and we have to come together. But yes, I think there's ways to fix the model, and Canada needs to understand that there's great ideas coming from all provinces. And if they have that dialogue, we won't get to this place where it's a take it or leave it type of thing from, I think, other regions.
Beyond right now, have you asked for this meeting that you say was agreed to after 5 years? Have you requested a meeting, a First Minister's meeting, a meeting with the Prime Minister to re-examine how this works?
Yeah, we have had great leadership on this file. My predecessor and now my Finance Minister, Premier Silver, and in his role, wrote back in 2022 highlighting this. There was some adjustments being made by Minister Guilbeault that we had some concern over. It was done in a sense that we felt a bit unilateral. We reached out to the PMO and at that point reflected on the fact that in the early days of this framework, there was a conversation around having a sort of a reset. And I think any legislation you see at the federal level, there's always a 5-year review. So I think, look, right now, if you can see the temperature across the country on this particular issue, it's going to be, I think, a time, if I was on the other side of the table, to say, yeah, we probably should bring everybody here before we really lose all of the support for something that's been waning over the last couple of years, and especially since we've seen challenges on affordability.
Yeah, but just so I'm clear, you're not saying that it needs to be scrapped. That is not your intention. No, okay.
Not at all. I mean, look, it's no premier wants to be putting extra price on anything. I mean, when we were elected, the first thing we did was we removed the small business tax completely. We reduced the general sales or the general business tax. We were first movers on early child supports. I mean, that's almost the price of a mortgage in many regions, especially where we are if you have 2 children. So these are things we did. We thought, okay, how do we reduce the burden for Yukoners? And we did that. And at the same time, we know we have a responsibility to take on this really serious challenge in front of us. Do I want to see extra pricing on my constituents? No. But do I want to see, a real approach to something that's serious? I do. Right now, it's easy for all of us to stand up and say, look, we don't want to continue down this path. In July, some part of the Yukon will be on fire, and we will be deploying resources and spending a tremendous amount of money to deal with that. And we may also have an incredible flood season. So, what are we going to do? We have to stand up, be responsible as leaders. These are tough decisions to make. I respect the decisions and the comments from my counterparts, but as a Premier of the Yukon, trying to make sure that the 480,000 square kilometers that we have to look after, it's important that we stand up and show that we're taking leadership on this particular file.
Premier, always great to see you. Thank you again for getting up early and making the time for me. I appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, Rosemary, thanks for having me.
Okay, have a good day.